I have served with distinction for over 17 years, and I'm proud to tell you that I'm a transgender woman. I want to talk to you about various events that have impacted me and about LGBT Pride Month and what it all means to me. First, let's talk about what LGBT Pride is. Many believe and feel that the Pride Parade is a celebration. A time to just put on some rainbow colors, have a bunch of drinks, and party in the streets. That is not what Pride is or ever was. Pride began as a riot. It began with a police raid on the Stonewall Inn, one of many, where the police would arrive and start arresting individuals for who they are or who they love. This being such a common occurrence, there was no more patience for these raids, and Sylvia Rivera and Marsha P. Johnson, both trans women of color, began to argue with the officers to the point where Marsha eventually became so frustrated she threw an item and broke the mirror behind the bar. As the police were forcibly taking people out of the bar, they were about to put Stormy Delavari, a lesbian woman of color, whom they previously had hit on the head with a billy club, into the paddy wagon when she looked at the crowd and yelled, "Why don't you do something?" And the night exploded. And the rest of the LGBT community jumped into action, and the riots began. Riots started by a community that was tired, fed up, and angry at the oppression they faced daily, at being arrested for simply existing and being punished for who they love or who they are. 1 year later, on the anniversary of the Stonewall riot, the community gathered again to show everyone that we are still here, and we are not going anywhere. Pride is, at its very core, a protest. It's a protest of the violence that has plagued and continues to plague our community. Violence such as the Stonewall riots, or the Upstairs Lounge, where 32 LGBT members were locked in an upstairs bar and burned alive. Or like Matthew Shepard, who was tortured, beaten, and left for dead for being gay. Or the Pulse nightclub massacre. Or the 369 transgender and non-binary people that were killed between October 2017 and September of 2018. It's not a celebration. It's protesting and telling the rest of the world that we are here, we exist, and you cannot erase us. And as they rioted during the Stonewall night by forming kick lines and dancing in the faces of the cops, we protest with our dancing and with our expression of ourselves in the faces of our oppressors. Pride is not a parade. It's a march. A march to the streets continuing the expression of ourselves. No, Pride is not a celebration. Pride won't be a celebration until it is safe for someone to say who they love and their partner's gender isn't relevant. When I can say I am a woman and not have to worry about losing all of my friends and family or being murdered for it. Where LGBT youth can tell their parents that they love someone of the same gender as them without the fear of being disowned and abandoned. Earlier I mentioned the Pulse nightclub massacre. Very recently I visited the Pulse nightclub memorial. For those who don't know, it's a memorial created for the victims of a shooting that happened on 12 June 2016, where 49 members of the LGBT community lost their lives in a violent attack. And the gravity of that memorial weighed very heavily on me. In the LGBT community, very often, a person's family is the community. Many of us who have been rejected by various members or all of our families have sought acceptance where we can find it and have searched for a family that will love us for who we are. That is our community. Our community is our family. It is those who've been rejected and cast aside, whose birth families have disowned us. To many of my community, the strongest familial bond is choice, not blood. That night, and many others like it, I lost my brothers and my sisters, my mothers and fathers, aunts, uncles, cousins, and that night I lost my children. That night, you also lost all of those family members. You lost the little brothers and sisters who are too scared of rejection to come out. And you lost mothers and fathers who hid who they were for the vast majority of their lives. And you lost children whose only place they could try to find themselves was around like-minded individuals who they didn't have to fear being rejected by. You lost the best friend that's been trying to find the words to tell you who they are. that night I also lost myself. Through all the stages of my life, I lost a 12-year-old me who would wake up in tears because I dreamt about men. I lost 15-year-old me who, when I first kissed a boy, I had to hide and reject the entire experience. I lost my 21-year-old self who, when I first entered a gay bar and finally felt outside acceptance to help guide me to that internal acceptance. And finally, I lost myself as I am now, the wonderful woman who has learned to accept and love herself completely. I say that these things were lost because that is what made up the 49 beautiful people that were lost that night during the Pulse shooting. It was a place full of acceptance, of self-discovery, and of people guiding others to learn to love themselves. I bring all this up because this is the importance of equality, of acceptance over tolerance, of acknowledging each other's differences and learning to respect them. Acceptance saves lives. Teaching others to love those that are different rather than to hate them. Teaching hate leads to violence. It leads to events like the Pulse shooting, and theater shootings, and black church shootings, and high school shootings, and all the terrible events I mentioned earlier. Without accepting our differences, and without a shared understanding of who we all are as individuals, we cannot survive. This is the protest that LGBT Pride Month is all about. As the ambassadors of the Army and of our nation, fostering acceptance should be at the very core of all of us and in everything we do. It makes us stronger as a country, as an army, as a unit, and as individuals. I may be an equal opportunity advisor, but you are all representatives and facilitators of dignity and respect as well. And it is all of our responsibilities to create an environment of inclusion, to recognize and truly see our respective service members, and to use that knowledge to strengthen our units, our nation, and to be an example to our joint nation counterparts here in Korea. From the newest private to the most senior leader, you are in a position to impact an entire force, simply through the behavior you display. Make that behavior, and by extension, your message, a positive one of acceptance and inclusion. Your displays of acceptance can save lives, and if you put yourself into it, you will save lives. Don't be afraid of accepting differences. Accepting someone doesn't mean you have to become them, and it doesn't take away your identity or theirs. There's nothing to be afraid of when we have acceptance. We should be proud of what makes us unique and cherish the differences we find in each other. Be proud of who you are and celebrate who you are, no matter what anyone else thinks. That is what pride is all about. Showing everyone who we are and how happy we are just being ourselves, while giving those who can't or are not ready to come out the strength and support they need as well. Finally, to my LGBTQ plus service members, open or still closeted, I need you to know you are beautiful, you are worthy, you have value, and if you are still seeking that acceptance and understanding, know that I am here for you. If your parents have rejected you, I am your mom now. If your siblings have rejected you, then call me your sister. If your friends have rejected you, then call me your friend. And if any more of your family has rejected you, then I am your family now. And I love you. Thank you.